What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Guiding Keys, the story of Kingdom Hearts presented by the Unlockables podcast. As always, I am your host. My name is Eric. I have been your guide through this adventure that we've been on through the world of Kingdom Hearts and through the incredible mind of series creator and director Tetsuya Nomura. It means so much to me that you're willing to stop in and see what is going on in the world of video games, in the world of Kingdom Hearts, and I thank you so much for tuning in wherever, whenever, in time and space you may be located. It's been a while, but we're finally here. We finally arrived at a game that I didn't think we'd ever arrive at when I first started this little journey. We've arrived at Kingdom Hearts 3 at long last. In a lot of ways, this game was the catalyst for this entire Guiding Keys journey. I've only played Kingdom Hearts 3 once in my entire life. I played it when it came out in 2019, and I really didn't touch it again after that. I didn't even play the Remind DLC when it came out because I was convinced that my Kingdom Hearts journey had come to an end. The story had wrapped up. I got to see some of the arcs for a lot of the characters that I love wrap up in a somewhat satisfying way, and I thought I was leaving Kingdom Hearts behind, in all honesty. I was happy with where it was and what it had done in my life. I was ready to move on to other things, but with the release of the trailer for Kingdom Hearts 4, of course, my interests got piqued once again. Nomura, you son of a bitch, you keep finding a way to pull me back in, and I just can't do it. And I'm really excited to finally be revisiting Kingdom Hearts 3. I did really love this game when it came out. I think the gameplay is incredible, and we'll go through all that stuff in the following sections. But just to kind of preface the whole episode by telling you guys, there's something about this game when I finish it that just didn't sit right with me. When I had completed the game, I had this feeling of almost like incompleteness because there were a lot of things about the characters that I loved that I wasn't happy about the way their stories specifically were handled in terms of the grand narrative. And I think that kind of left just a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth in what was otherwise an incredible game, because the game, it plays incredibly and it's a blast to play. But the way the specific characters were treated outside of Sora and Riku and some of the other mainstays was just a little bit disappointing. I think I just wanted a little bit more. I wanted Nomura to elaborate just a little bit more on what these characters have been going through and things like that. And we'll dive into all that once we start breaking down the game. It's just left a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth, and I think I knocked a lot of points off just because of that specific thing. But I'm excited to go back and revisit it now. It's been almost 5 years since the original. Yeah, past 5 years since the original. It's been 5 years since Kingdom Hearts 3 came out, 4 years since the Remind DLC. And I figured, why not do this entire Guiding Keys journey and kind of put the entire series into retrospective? So that way, when I get to Kingdom Hearts 3, I can truly see if my thoughts from 2019 hold up today, or if I have a little bit more appreciation as to where some of the characters ended up, some of the places that the story went, and appreciation for how Nomura is setting up the continuation of the story in Kingdom Hearts 4. So, I guess with that being said, without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into Kingdom Hearts 3. Kingdom Hearts 3 is a 2019 action RPG developed by Square Enix Business Division 3 and published by Square Enix. Square Enix Business Division 3, just a little bit of notes here. It is a subdivision of Creative Business Unit 1, or was a subdivision of Creative Business Unit 1. After this episode comes out, shakeups might lead to the reshuffling of some of the creative teams at Square Enix, but this is the information as we know it when the game was developed. So, Business Division 3 was a subdivision of Creative Business Unit 1, which was led by Yoshinori Kitase. You should know his name by now if you've listened to enough of these episodes or like Final Fantasy in general. And Creative Business Unit 1 focuses mainly on the FF series main titles and some spin-offs of FF, Saga, and Kingdom Hearts. Business Division 3 specifically is responsible for Kingdom Hearts Saga and a couple of the Final Fantasy spin-offs. Business Division 1, for example, is responsible for Final Fantasy VII Remake, so it seems that Nomura's role as creative director expands to multiple teams, and that all the teams report directly to Yoshinori Kitase. Like I said, we'll have to see if this changes with some of Square's recent business moves. They've been in the news lately about they want to focus less on single platform games and focus more of their efforts into games that they know will sell well. So we'll have to see if there's any kind of reshuffling of their creative business units in some of those moves that they make. Kingdom Hearts 3 is the 12th entry in the Kingdom Hearts series, and it serves as the conclusion to the Darkseeker / Xehanort saga, while setting up the next arc in the story, the Lost Masters arc, or saga, whatever you want to call it. DLC for Kingdom Hearts 3 would be released a year later, called Remind in 2020, replacing the long-running tradition of doing final mix versions of the game. There's no final mix version of Kingdom Hearts 3. Remind DLC adds a lot of the stuff that you would come to expect from a final mix version, including extra boss fights, extra content, extra cutscenes, things that elaborate on the story a little bit more and give us a little more information on what is coming for the future of Kingdom Hearts. Just a couple of fun facts here. Concepts for Kingdom Hearts 3 began as far back as 2005, although the game would not officially be revealed to be in development until 2013, 6 years before it was released, and we'll elaborate a little bit more on some of that information in the development history of this game. Let's meet the managerial team responsible for Kingdom Hearts 3. Of course, serving as our directors, we have Tetsuya Nomura himself, alongside his longtime collaborator, Tai Yasue. Tai Yasue would basically serve as his eyes and ears on this project, as Nomura was working on this and 7 Remake at the same time. Rie Nishi would return to produce the project. Masaru Oka would head up writing alongside Nomura himself. And of course, you can't have a Kingdom Hearts game without Yoko Shimomura. She would return to do some of the compositions, but she would have help, as this was a really, really big project, and she felt the pressure of it being the first numbered Kingdom Hearts title in a long time. So Takahiro Ishimoto and Tsuyoshi Sakito, who had worked on the series before, would return to help her with some of the compositions. Sakito's been around Square for a while. He played in the Black Mages, and he's done work on the Kingdom Hearts series basically since Birth by Sleep. Ishimoto has helped with Kingdom Hearts since Chain of Memories. He's been a Square Enix mainstay for quite a while. So both of these other composers alongside Shimomura have extensive experience working with these kinds of projects. Hikaru Utada would return to do not one, but 2 main themes for the game. Chikai in Japanese, Don't Think Twice in English, which served as the game's end credits theme. And then there was Face My Fears, as it was known in English and Japanese, by Skrillex, and Utada is used as the game's opening theme. Skrillex has been a massive fan of the series for a long time. He was originally going to remix Don't Think Twice, the theme that Utada had originally written for the game, but he pitched the idea for Face My Fears to her and ended up collaborating with her on that song. So really, really cool story about that there. Shout out to Skrillex. I haven't really heard from Skrillex since the early 2010s when he released a couple of those dubstep albums that really kind of took the world by storm, I guess, and kind of blew dubstep into this really big thing. Since we're talking about the last numbered Kingdom Hearts title as of now, we got to mention some of the voice cast here. Of course, Haley Joel Osment will return to voice Sora. This was actually pretty challenging for him. He found the prospect of voicing a teenager challenging, since so much time had passed between when Osment did Sora in Kingdom Hearts 2 and when he did Sora in Kingdom Hearts 3. I believe Osment lent his voice to some of the appearances of Sora in the in-between games, but I want to say that for Dream Drop Distance, it was somebody else voicing Sora, but I'm not 100% confident on that. Might be me lying through my teeth, but Osment was quite a bit older. They weren't going to have anyone else do Sora besides him, and you can kind of tell in the voice acting a little bit, but he does a pretty good job. Tony Anselmo and Bill Farmer would return to portray Donald Duck and Goofy once again. David Gallagher would once again voice Riku. Alison Stoner would voice Kairi, as she had since replacing Hayden Panettiere after Kingdom Hearts 2. Jason Doring, Willa Holland, Jesse McCartney, and Mark Hamill reprised their characters from Birth by Sleep, which is Terra, Aqua Ventus, and Ericus, respectively. And McCartney also filled the role of Roxas as well, since he'd done that in Kingdom Hearts 2. Dylan Sprouse makes his Kingdom Hearts debut in the Remind DLC. He would voice a character known as Yozora. We'll get to that in a little bit. So one of the two famous Zack and Cody, Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. If any of my a little bit older, I guess, listeners remember Peak Disney Channel, there's a show called The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, and the Dylan and Cole Sprouse twins have gone on to have, I would say, probably pretty good careers. So very, very cool that he would be included in the Remind DLC. Rutger Hauer would voice Master Xehanort, replacing Leonard Nimoy after his passing in 2015. Following Hauer's death in 2019, legendary actor Christopher Lloyd would voice Xehanort in the Remind DLC. Paul St. Peter would return to voice Xemnas, the leader of Organization 13, and Richard Epcar would reprise his role as Ansem, one that he had filled since the original Kingdom Hearts when Billy Zane did not return to voice Ansem. Let's talk about some release dates. This was released on the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. It released on January 25th, 2019 in Japan, and it would be available worldwide on January 29th, 2019. It debuted on Windows. I believe it was an Epic Store exclusive for a while, as it has just come to Steam. It came out on Windows March 30th, 2021, and there were Switch versions of the game that came out on February 10th, 2022, although I believe those are cloud versions, and I haven't heard the best things about the Switch versions of Kingdom Hearts 3. The Remind DLC, which was mentioned before, was released on January 23rd, 2020. Now, how was Kingdom Hearts 3 received? I would say probably pretty good. On Metacritic for the PlayStation 4, it's sitting at an 83 out of 100, Xbox One 80 out of 100, and PC 84 out of 100. So 8 out of 10 scores, and when you're looking at the aggregate, pretty good. EGM gave it a 7.5 out of 10, Game Informer a 9.5 out of 10, GameSpot an 8 out of 10, IGN 8.7 out of 10, and RP Gamer a 3.5 out of 5. It received praise for its impressive visuals and technical advances for the game and its combat systems. Game Informer called it the series at its strongest. Fantastic representations of the Disney worlds were also praised, although some found the Pirates of the Caribbean levels somewhat jarring. And surprisingly enough, the voice acting was praised as well. But there wasn't a lack of criticism, however. It's pretty much par for the course. If you're going to have a Kingdom Hearts game, you're going to have people that have some issues with it. And that is fine. I don't think they're perfect games by any stretch. But here are some of the criticisms that were laid out by the reviewers. They, of course, attacked the incomprehensible story. They didn't like the lack of Final Fantasy characters, which, surprising, considering this is a Final Fantasy Disney crossover, there were no Final Fantasy characters included in Kingdom Hearts 3, which is kind of surprising, and that was criticized by reviewers and fans. They didn't like the gummy ship sections. They said they were bland. I kind of liked the gummy ship sections. I thought they were pretty good. And the ending was criticized. They said it was a bittersweet ending, but the ending was interrupted by heavy-handed storytelling, and this is something that I definitely agree with and we'll talk about at the ending. And it was an issue I had with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and kind of an issue that I have with Nomura overall, is when he's telling his stories and having these incredible emotional endings, like, they're really powerful, but he uses a lot of these endings to stretch the plot threads into the future, into future games. And he doesn't let the emotional moments breathe before his really, really heavy and cryptic storytelling takes over to set up the next game. And I see some of that here, so I agree with that criticism 100%. We'll talk about that when we get into the end of this game and talk about the ending and what all that stuff means. In terms of sales, on February 4th, 2019, Square Enix had announced the game sold more than 5 million copies. So that's just a little over a week, and the game sold 5 million copies. And they revealed that Kingdom Hearts 3 had reached a total of 6.7 million units as of September 2021, surpassing the original Kingdom Hearts as the best-selling title in the series to date. This is all the sales data that we have on it so far. The Kingdom Hearts series has surpassed 36 million copies sold to date as of March 2022, although we'll probably see those numbers rise because the games are now available on Steam, and I'm sure there's a really great deal on Steam as of this recording. It'd probably be gone by the time this episode's out, but you could basically get the entire series for $70. That's like 10 or 11 games, or like 10 games and a couple of movies with cutscenes thrown in. So you're able to basically experience the entire Kingdom Hearts saga for $70. That's so much value. That's so much content. If you were ever skeptical about the series and you were just like, let me just get it all and put it on my Steam library, $70. Really, really, really good. So as we are wont to do, let's move on to just some general thoughts, some of my feelings about Kingdom Hearts 3 before we move on to the more technical stuff, as we've done for the entire series, and we're going to do it with Kingdom Hearts 3 because I have some pretty complex feelings and emotions about this game. When I first played Kingdom Hearts 3, I was at a really, really different place in my life. It was 2019, and I was 28 years old. I was still living at home. I had literally just spent every single cent that I made in my 20s to pay down my student loans. I was stuck at a dead-end job at an Amazon warehouse, and I was unable to get any kind of non-gimmicky job with my expensive degree. I have a marketing degree that I spent 5 years in college to get. But the only types of jobs I was able to like attract were these ones where it was like, oh, like go door to door and knock, or like these multi-level marketing schemes that were definitely totally not pyramid schemes, but actually were totally pyramid schemes. And I understand that people hit the pavement and door knock. That's not a knock on anybody that does that type of work. It just wasn't what I wanted to do. I came out of college with my marketing degree, and I wanted to, right off the bat, oh, I'll just go and work at one of the big agencies, the Leo Burnett, or I'll go work for Nike or a sports team. And the reality of the job market and the reality of adult life hit me pretty hard. I kind of ran into it like a wall, and it was pretty rough. And like I said, I had emptied my bank accounts to pay down my student loans. I'd spent an extra 5 years living at my parents' house, and God bless my parents because I'm in such a better position today because they let me stay at home for so long to save up that money and be able to get out from under my student debts. I was single. Those of you that know me now know I have a family. I have a wife and a baby. I was single back then. My life was just so drastically different when Kingdom Hearts 3 came out. The first part of 2019 saw the finale of several things that I had been following for almost a decade. Kingdom Hearts 3 was coming out in January, and that would obviously serve as the conclusion to almost 2 decades of storytelling that I had followed pretty closely since it came out. Probably not as closely at the start. I mean, I loved Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, but I think my love and fervor for them really kind of exploded after Birth by Sleep and when Dream Drop Distance was coming out. That's kind of when it really started to take off for me. So Kingdom Hearts was ending in January, and I'd followed that for almost 2/3 of my life. That spring would also see the conclusion of the Infinity Saga of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, obviously with Avengers Endgame. And I know that it's kind of cool and popular to clown on the MCU now, but that was something that me and my friends did every single time there was a Marvel movie that came out. Like the weekend it came out, we would go and we'd see it together, and it'd been that way for 10 years. And that arc of stories was finishing up with Endgame. I believe that was in March. And last and probably most infamously, Game of Thrones would be wrapping up what turned out to be a pretty disastrous final season in Season 8. And despite the fact that Season 8 was a disaster, Game of Thrones is still a really good show for a majority of its run. And that was appointment TV watching. I watched most of Game of Thrones with my dad. We watched that. That was something that we bonded over. We watched football together. We watched Game of Thrones together. So that was something that we did. We would drink and watch Game of Thrones together every single week when it came out. These were all things that I'd followed really, really closely, experienced with friends, and they were all coming to an end at kind of the same time, which felt oddly poetic. And I know you might think it's kind of silly to like use popular media and these things as kind of like signposts in my life, but these are the things I was doing around this time. And all of these things ending that I had invested emotional capital into was a pretty big deal. The fact that they were all ending at the same time. So I remember very distinctly, I ordered like the most expensive version of Kingdom Hearts for the PlayStation 4. It was like $300. It came with Sora as in his Toy Story form, a steel bookcase, and an art book, and probably something that wasn't worth $300 looking back at it. So I bought that for the PlayStation 4, but I also went the day it came out and bought an Xbox copy because I was afraid that my PS4 collector's version wasn't going to come the day that it came out, and I don't remember if it did or not. So my original playthrough of Kingdom Hearts 3 was on the Xbox because I didn't have my PlayStation copy because I literally bought the most expensive version of Kingdom Hearts 3. I do not regret it. It's fine, and I have purchased like every Kingdom Hearts game multiple times now. It's fine. I'm supporting the franchise that I love so that I can get more of them. So I played Kingdom Hearts over the series of a couple days, I think going into the weekend, and finishing Kingdom Hearts 3. It's difficult to put into words because you have to have experienced something for so long and followed it so closely and loved it so much, even as others hated it, to describe the feelings that I felt when the credits rolled. And I'll be 100% honest with you, I cried when the credits started rolling. Not only because the emotion I felt in the moment as I watched the story reach its long-awaited conclusion, but also the emotion that I felt in the moment as I reflected on my life's journey over nearly the last 20 years. All of the highs and lows, new friends, lost love, depression, struggle, triumph, lack of triumph, failure. And at every single one of these moments that I reflected on, Kingdom Hearts had always been a constant in my life. And those emotions came to the surface as I finished the game in under a week. I absolutely devoured it and finished it in 3-4 days, probably going into the weekend. I could easily check the calendar on my computer as I'm recording right now, but I'd rather just say it and probably be proven wrong sometime in the future. And it was just it was an emotional experience I know it's silly to, you might think it's silly to be that invested in something to the point where it's kind of a thing that formed the framework for the last like 20 years of your life. But unless you've experienced anything like that, I can't really describe the feeling to you. And just to have something that's there as a comfort when I didn't necessarily have the friends or like a girlfriend or a relationship to fall back on in the hard times. I had Kingdom Hearts. That's what I had. I know it's silly, but that's what it was. Since finishing Kingdom Hearts 3, since that time, my life has changed so drastically. I met my wife that summer in 2019, and 3 months later, we moved in together. 3 months after that, we bought a house together. And literally, as we purchased that house, the next week, the pandemic shut the country down. During the pandemic, we adopted 2 dogs. So I went from being a fairly solitary creature to having to learn to share my space with somebody else and have 2 pets. I'd never had my own pet before. My parents had dogs, but we were all able to chip in and take care of them. I suddenly went from being in a solitary space of 1 to sharing a space with 4 people and owning a house and having adult responsibilities. And 2 years later, after the pandemic calmed down, I proposed to her. And then a year later, basically, we got married. And the month after we got married, I started a new job that I actually really, really love. And I'm still at to this day. And it treats me like all jobs should treat their workers. And most importantly, this year, as I was replaying Kingdom Hearts 3, we had our first child, a son, who he was sleeping mere feet away from me as I rolled credits on Kingdom Hearts 3 for the first time since 2019. And he slept near me during most of my playthrough for it. Like I said, it feels a little bit silly that you would count a video game as a marker of major life change, but that's been Kingdom Hearts in a nutshell for me. Somehow, some way, it's been there for all of my life's major moments, whether that was incidental, whether it was me seeking it out as a comfort as things happened. I don't know, but it's been there for me. As far as analytical thoughts on Kingdom Hearts 3, even after playing the game for the second time to completion, I feel conflicted in terms of the game itself, gameplay, presentation, the way it looks, the way it sounds. This is by far the most complete Kingdom Hearts game. It's very clearly a culmination of all the games that came before it. And you can see, and I see now more than I did when I played it the first time, because I've literally played all these games back to back to back to back to back in the span of a couple of years, how much it's basically the sum of all of the other games, the best parts taken of those games and refined over a 20-year period. Combat is fast, movement is fluid, it's incredibly fun to play. We'll dive into some of that stuff later when we talk about gameplay and presentation, but the combat has the most variety and most options of any of the Kingdom Hearts titles. I still think I prefer Kingdom Hearts 2 just because of the nostalgia associated with that one, but 3 is damn fun to play. The Disney worlds have never been more expansive, more full, better looking. They did an incredible job of choosing the worlds and working with Pixar in some cases to make them fully realized versions of what you saw in Pixar movies. The worlds are absolutely incredible. My issue, I think, is still with the story. And although I think I've softened up on this issue a little bit in my second playthrough, it's something that's still on my mind even as I record this episode. Kingdom Hearts 3 has so much to account for, so much that's been set up that it has to answer before the conclusion. At the beginning of this game, Sora still doesn't have the power of waking. We have at least 5 Guardians of Light to try and help / rescue, being Terra, Aqua, Ventus, Roxas, and Xion. 5 potential plot threads that we need to tie up. That's a lot of characters that need screen time, that need to be rescued, that have lingering plots from their own games that need to be tied up. And this was my primary issue with Kingdom Hearts 3. By the time this game came out, I was so invested in the story of these characters. I had followed their respective journeys for almost 2 decades. I wanted a heartfelt conclusion that was satisfying for every character, that would give them time to interact with each other and with Sora, who many of them would be meeting for the first time. But I would say maybe like 85% of the story is concerned with what is going on in the Disney worlds, and it leaves these plot threads the last 5-ish, maybe the last 15% of the game to sort themselves out. During my first playthrough, I was really, really resentful of the Disney worlds for taking time away from these characters' stories that at this point I felt were more important than the Disney shenanigans we were going through. I understand it's an important part of the crossover, but I was mad at Disney for feeling like Disney was interfering with the characters that I loved. I feel less like that now, but there's still a little part of me that feels that the Disney worlds got in the way of my ideal scenario for these characters. After spending so much time in the Disney worlds with intermittent main plot things happening in between, everything related to the plot threads of the still missing characters wraps up in like literally the last 5 to 8 hours. And the last stretch of this game is just an insane whirlwind and escalating series of boss fights and scenarios that do give some really incredible payoff and fan service to longtime fans. And I won't argue that these moments are some of the most hype moments in the entire series, and they're really, really emotional. They make me cry every single time. But as we'll see in the story portion, I feel that nowhere near enough time is devoted to bringing the arcs of these lost characters to their conclusions. Now, I get it. The numbered Kingdom Hearts titles have always been about Sora. He's the main character, after all. He's the focus. He is the key that connects everybody. That's literally what the last 12 games have been telling us, is that everybody is connected to Sora, and that's what makes him important. But these games have also been about how all of these people who've suffered at the hands of Xehanort are connected to him. But it barely feels like they have any time together at all before we're hurtling towards the finale of the game. Here's a light spoiler. You do eventually wake up Ven. Sora manages to release Ven's heart from within him and restore him. You would think that after carrying Ven's heart inside of him for so long, that Sora and Ven would be allotted some screen time to talk with one another. And that is definitely not the case. I feel like Sora and Ven speak to each other directly like twice towards the end of a game. The whole plot revolved around Sora harboring Ven's heart inside of him. That was a major plot point, and Sora and Ven don't even get to speak about that. It's absolutely insane. I wanted less emphasis on the Disney worlds. I wanted more emphasis on the story of those connected to Sora who we had to save, and it feels like they're just shoehorned in at the last possible moment to appease Disney, who clearly wanted as much time as possible to showcase all of their intellectual property. And, you know, the members of the new organization are loosely connected to each world story. It's still a very loose affiliation. It's not strong enough to the point where I feel like it's emotionally impactful. Those moments don't come with the new organization until later, towards the very end. Sora spends this whole game traveling to the worlds to get the power of waking, but it never seems like he's making progress towards it, except when the characters remember, oh yeah, this is why we're out here on an adventure going through all these Disney worlds. And it's unobtainable until finally when Sora needs it, he just kind of has it. And it doesn't feel like a natural progression of his strength or his character throughout the Disney worlds. And I resented Disney for that. I wanted less Disney. I wanted more time with the characters that I grew to love. This is one of my issues with Nomura, as I stated in my FF7 Rebirth episode, and I mentioned in the criticisms about this game. He gets so wrapped up in trying to bring his narrative to an epic conclusion in the closing hours of the game that he does not pause to let the emotional moments breathe as much as he should. And I feel it in this game. And while my frustration at this point is less from my second playthrough, it's still something that I wish would have been handled better. Again, the fact that Sora and Ven have basically no screen time together blows my fucking mind, even to this day. The fact that Sora and Kairi, who is like actually safe in this game and not a kidnapped damsel for once, get no screen time together except for the end is mind-blowing to me. It's absolutely mind-blowing to me. And I resented Disney for a long time because Disney did have a heavier hand in Kingdom Hearts 3, which we'll see in the development history, because the worlds and the properties they were working with are more contemporary Disney movies. They were working on Kingdom Hearts 3 while some of these movies were still being worked on. And I feel just like Disney had a really heavy hand, and Nomura had to save everything for the end. And this episode is going to kind of be an emotional journey for me as well, because as I go through the story, maybe I'll be able to figure out my emotions with it and come to terms with it. Because, again, I'm frustrated because the game didn't end the way I wanted it to personally. And that is kind of selfish because it's not on me to demand of Nomura to end it the way I want to. I have experienced Nomura's stories and defended them for 20-something years. And he will tell me the end of the story as to how he has perceived it because he is the series creator. And because it didn't fulfill what I want, that's technically partially on me because I can't come to terms with what he told me. But I can still not like the way he did it. I can still not like that Sora and Ven don't have any time together at the end of this game. It's absolutely insane. So I won't ramble about that because I'll just spend the whole episode rambling. We'll talk about that when we get to the story stuff and we get to the end of the story and kind of break everything down. So with that being said, let's move on to gameplay and presentation. All right, let's move on to gameplay and presentation, and we'll start obviously with the biggest elephant in the room, right? Which was the move from the Luminous engine to Unreal Engine 4 that basically cost the development team like a whole year of work as they had to make that transition because of course it wouldn't be easy to transition assets between two different engines. Like why would that make any sense? But I'm very happy that they moved this game into Unreal Engine 4 because we still see a lot of games built in Unreal Engine 4 as we've just started transitioning to Unreal Engine 5. The game looks incredible, and I'm super happy that they gave up on their in-house tools like Crystal Tools and Luminous Engine because trying to build engines and make them work for games on the fly, obviously as history has shown us, does not work that great. And Unreal has been doing this for a long time. The Unreal Engine, the folks at Epic, despite I have other qualms about the business practices of Epic, they have a good product in Unreal Engine. It's one of the standards for the industry right now, and it's what people go to instead of having to build your engine from scratch and then go from there. The game looks fantastic. It's super fluid to play, like you would expect an Unreal Engine 4 game to play. And the team definitely took advantage of all the different like lighting and particle disintegration effects that Unreal Engine 4 has to offer. And they use those particle effects an insane amount for like boulders exploding and particles flying everywhere. They definitely use it a lot. This is probably the future going forward, as I believe it was reported they were making Kingdom Hearts 4 in Unreal Engine. Whether they decide to move to 5 or keep it in 4, I don't know. But just looking at the trailer and analyzing the trailer for Kingdom Hearts 4 definitely looks like it is in Unreal Engine. There's some similarities between the stuff that 3 was doing and what they're trying to do in 4, which you have to remember the stuff in 4, the more realistic looking stuff of it, might not be what it seems, but we'll get into that when we talk about Kingdom Hearts 4 at the very, very conclusion of this story. So as for the worlds, let's talk about the Disney and Pixar worlds they decided to include in Kingdom Hearts 3. The worlds are as followed: Olympus from Hercules, Toy Box from Toy Story, Kingdom of Corona from Tangled, Monstropolis from Monsters, Inc., Arendelle from Frozen, the Caribbean from Pirates of the Caribbean, and San Francisco from Big Hero 6. Those are the properties, the worlds that were included alongside some returning Kingdom Hearts worlds. We get to go back to the Mysterious Tower, we get to see Twilight Town, and we get to go to the Keyblade Graveyard as the original worlds for Kingdom Hearts, but a majority of them Disney and Pixar properties. The worlds look incredible. The animation, art, and graphics in this game look like they came from a Disney animation studio or a Pixar animation studio from the mid-2010s. It's got the same exact art style as some of those Pixar movies. I don't know specifically what you call it. I'm not like a professional to analyze graphics and analyze different types of animation. That's not what I do, but I can tell you that it looks like the animated style of the mid-2010s Disney movies like Tangled or like Frozen. And they had a specific style that was implemented among the development team, and this was known as the Kingdom Shader, which was kind of, I guess, the default set of graphical inputs they would include for the characters, and they felt that was more representative of Disney's modern animation style rather than opting for like a more realistic look. They decided to keep it with what Disney was doing at the time, and this is not surprising considering that many Pixar and Disney animation staff appear in the credits. Square worked really closely with Disney to capture the look and feel of all these worlds in incredible detail. There are so many details in each of the worlds that it's insane. From just the toy box level, for example, in Toy Story, where Sora and friends literally turn into toys. It's such a cool, one of my favorite forms of Sora and friends to date. Like their Toy Story forms looking like toys is incredible. Then you go to the scare floor of Monsters, Inc., where Sora and all of them literally turn into monsters. You're a monster in that world. It's incredible, the level of attention to detail and variety that they put into this game. When we talk about combat, there's a thing called Keyblade transformations, and I just have to think of, like, they had to make so many different models for Sora for all of his different forms across the different worlds where he's different, that it's just kind of crazy to me that they would pay that much detail and go to that much effort to do that. It's one of the best looking Square Enix games ever. It's one of the best looking video games of the past decade. I would say that Kingdom Hearts 3 and Final Fantasy 7 Remake and Rebirth are three of the best looking games to come out in the last 10 years, bar none. Sometimes things do look a little bit shiny, which is one of my primary complaints about Unreal Engine 4. I don't know if that's just an Unreal Engine thing or just the way that the team and Square Enix did all the characters and all the styling and stuff. But more often than not, it looks incredible. It looks fine. I've dealt with shiny characters in video games before. It's not the end of the world. It obviously breaks that realistic immersion, but they weren't going for a realistic look. They're going for a Disney animation cartoon look. Now let's dive into actual gameplay stuff. We're talking about combat, Keyblade transformation, situation commands, and attraction flow, which basically make up the movement and the combat for Kingdom Hearts 3. Combat is certainly a step up from Kingdom Hearts 2. Sora has never been faster, never been stronger, never been more capable in his abilities, despite being in a weakened state at the start of the game. As his combos and abilities grow, he truly becomes a force of nature on the battlefield, whirling around, dealing devastation wherever he goes, and it looks great too, as graphical flourishes are absolutely maxed out without being too distracting. Again, a testament to Unreal 4. It makes landing hits feel good, making for an incredibly satisfying and fun combat system. Again, I think I prefer Kingdom Hearts 2, but the pace, the speed, the way combat functions in Kingdom Hearts 3 is definitely a growth from Kingdom Hearts 2 and incorporates a lot of the stuff that we've seen in past games. The feature mechanic in Kingdom Hearts 3 is Keyblade transformations, and this is an evolution of the form change commands from Birth by Sleep and the drive forms from Kingdom Hearts 2. They kind of combined both of these things together. Rather than give Sora dedicated drive forms or form changes he could access, they decided to include these in each of his Keyblades. Each Keyblade, in addition to its base form, can now transform. As Sora attacks, there will be a gauge that appears above your menu, consisting of 3 arrows, and another arrow will appear over time as you land combos. Once you fill up that gauge and hit 3, a form change command becomes available and can be activated with the press of triangle. For example, the Keyblade from the Toy Box, which is the Toy Story world, which is appropriately called Favorite Deputy. When you're attacking with Favorite Deputy, you fill up your arrow gauge. You can initiate a Keyblade transformation called Hyper Hammer, where the Favorite Deputy Keyblade transforms into like a massive hammer that is stylized in the Toy Story aesthetic. The head of the hammer is like a rocket, and it's got like cactus on it, and it just looks like it belongs in the Toy Story world. And you can use it to crush the absolute fuck out of your enemies. It's one of my favorite Keyblade transformations in the whole game. If you fill up the gauge again with Hyper Hammer active, you can activate a secondary form change to Drill Punch, which is basically a drill glove that Sora wears on his arm. And in this form, you can trigger a devastating final attack, which will cause massive damage, but it will revert you back to your normal Keyblade form. Every Keyblade form change is sorted into a different category, meaning that they do different things. And I will list them for you here. So first up is a Strike form. This is reminiscent of Valor form from Kingdom Hearts 2. Remember, Sora had turned red and had 2 Keyblades. This is reminiscent of that. Sora's clothes once again turn red. It emphasizes his physical attacks and is triggered by the following Keyblades: Favorite Deputy, Happy Gear, and Wheel of Fate. So if you want a strike form, if you want an offensive emphasized form that emphasizes physical attacks, you need to equip one of those 3 Keyblades. The next form you have is Guardian form, and Guardian form is reminiscent of Master form from Kingdom Hearts 2. Sora's clothes turn yellow, and this form emphasizes defensive capabilities, triggered by the following Keyblades: Hero's Origin, Honey Spout, and Classic Tone. So if you want a more defensive-minded form, you have to equip one of those Keyblades. Element form, which is a throwback to Wisdom form from Kingdom Hearts 2. Sora's clothes turn blue, and it emphasizes his magical abilities. It is triggered by the Keyblades Shooting Star and Ever After. Blitz form emphasizes speed and mobility. This doesn't have a corresponding Kingdom Hearts 2 form, but Sora's clothes turn blue and is triggered by the Keyblades Crystal Snow Nano Gear, and Grand Chef. Ultimate Form is reminiscent of Final Form from Kingdom Hearts 2, obviously. Sora's clothes turn white, and it is triggered by the Ultima weapon, because why wouldn't it be? And Ultima Form doesn't have like a specific lane. It's just strong as fuck in every category. So it's just all around the best Keyblade, hands down. Rage Form also returns, allowing Sora to channel his inner darkness when his health gets super low, and this kind of happens at random. Again, it works kind of like Rage Form or Dark Form or whatever it's called in Kingdom Hearts 2, where if you used your dry forms too much, you would go into a dark form that basically stripped you of all your abilities. I really like the Keyblade transformations for several reasons. It varies up gameplay a lot, as many of the transformations are visually and mechanically distinct from one another. You can also have up to 3 Keyblades equipped at a time and swap between them using left or right on the D-pad. So this means you can do things like get a form change for one Keyblade and swap to a different Keyblade to store that form change for later and use it when it might be more advantageous to you instead of wasting it on like the tail end of a random encounter. This also is really cool because it makes all Keyblades viable for the whole game, for the most part. It used to be that once you got a better Keyblade later in the game, you would never use the Keyblades from earlier in the game. The Kingdom Key was basically useless in every single game by the end of the game, and it's the most iconic form of the Keyblade. With form changes, you may prefer one style over another, and you can customize your playstyle and Keyblade preference to what you prefer. The synthesis menu also offers you a way to upgrade your Keyblades so you make them more powerful so they can be used later in the game. So it unlocks so many, it's such a broad system for you to express the way that you want to play the game. And all those different forms, like I mentioned up above, do different things. So you can mix and match Keyblades and forms based on like what you like to do. So you can go and have like a strike form Keyblade to have offense, and you can have a element form Keyblade to have extra magic if you want to get some extra magic. And let's say you want speed, so then you'd equip one of the blitz form, the Keyblades that triggers a blitz form Keyblade transformation. So there's a lot of ways to mix and match combat styles in this game, more than just hacking and slashing. There's a lot of depth, a lot of variety to it. I think it works really thematically as well. For the entire series, we're always told how it's been Sora's connections to other people that have made him strong, not the Keyblade itself. I mean, we've found out in Dream Drop Distance, the Keyblade wasn't even supposed to choose Sora. It was supposed to be handed down to Riku, and really kind of only chose Sora because A, he happened to be there, and 2, he was harboring Ven's heart. But it's his connections to other people that make him special, that make him strong, and that is the emphasis of his strength and of his journey, not the Keyblade itself. So to give him the ability to change his Keyblade's form based on the world it's from, it's almost like a physical manifestation of the connection he has with the characters that he met in those worlds. It's an outward manifestation of the bonds that he has with new friends, essentially. And I think thematically, that's really, really incredible. Speaking of form changes take place in the situation command system, which I already talked about in 0.2. I'll talk about it a little bit here. This incorporates the magic system, where magic incorporated into the flow of your combos can trigger situation commands that grant you powerful magic spell finishers. Like if you weave in fire to some of your combos, you'll get a strong for Raza finisher that is just basically like a giant nuclear fireball that just explodes and devastates everything in an area. Or if you weave in thunder attacks to your combos, you'll get Thundaza if your magic is powered all the way up. And Thundaza is just a devastating series of thunderbolts that basically just char the entire area around you. So you get rewarded for mixing in magic with your physical attack flow and just get some really awesome, really cinematic magical finishers that are just absolutely incredible. The physical attacks and magic have never worked better together in any action game that I've played. And to me, this makes Kingdom Hearts 3 like the pinnacle of action games like this. One other main component we have to talk about in the combat is something called attraction flow. and this is probably the most controversial thing that was included in the combat for Kingdom Hearts 3. Attraction Flow is a new system that's incorporated into the combat that was inspired by the rides and attractions at Disney theme parks. Basically, what you can do is every once in a while during a random combat or a boss fight, there'll be like a green target that appears on an enemy, and it's kind of a timer. It starts counting down, and if you perform a combo on that targeted enemy, you get access to a situation command that will let you summon a theme park ride based on one of the Disney theme park rides. For example, you can summon a merry-go-round that's like a rhythm game that sends out shockwaves of energy when you hit the timing right. You can summon spinning teacups that spin faster and faster with time button presses, colliding with enemies and dealing damage. You can summon like a blaster VR ride, kind of like you'd find at Universal Studios, that takes you in first-person mode to blast enemies from like a cart that moves around, or like a roller coaster, whatever you call those, cart. Cart's the only thing I can think of right now. Fuselage, I don't know, but you blast people from it. There's a swinging pirate ship ride. This is like a generic ride. There's a roller coaster that's based off of one of the roller coasters from Disney theme parks. It's escaping me off the top of my head right now, but I have them all written down in the development section when I read that for you. So don't worry if you're missing the names of the specific rides. I have them written down for you. So, and people didn't like this because the attractions show up all the damn time. Like in every single encounter, it seems that an attraction shows up at least once. And the attractions are very powerful, and the attractions do a lot of damage. And people were like, oh, I don't really like this. It seems like easy mode, because the attractions are very impactful on the battles in which they show up, to which I understand, but you can also choose to like not use the attractions. Just ignore them. Just don't use them. Or like if you accidentally hit them in the process of going through your situation commands, just exit out of it. It gives you a cancel option because the animations and stuff are pretty long. I see both sides of it. I think they're useful in a pinch. I think they're a really cool concept, especially with the whole Disney park aspect. It's a little bit heavy-handed by Disney to include these, like a little bit like, oh, you're like, all right, you're kind of stretching it now within the confines of the game. But I think it's kind of cool to see. It's a cool little nod to the, not that there needs to be any more nods to the Disney crossover, but it's a cool nod to the theme park aspect of the Disney crossover, I will admit. One last thing I wanted to make mention of is that flow motion does make a return here, but in a much more limited sense than Dream Drop Distance. It has been neutered pretty aggressively. It's still useful in situations and useful to use to get around the map, but it's not as fast or aggressive as it is in Dream Drop Distance. I would say flow motion in Dream Drop Distance was the most aggressive thing that Kingdom Hearts has ever done. And I'm kind of happy that they dialed it back here, because flow motion was the dominant strategy for Dream Drop Distance, and it's utilized more in terms of traversal than in combat here in Kingdom Hearts 3 to allow all these other systems to shine and not just have you do flow motion over and over again. So it is there. It's been neutered pretty hard. It's kind of enrolled into the new traversal system, which I believe they called athletic flow, which is just the term they use for the systems and rules that govern Sora's mobility. So yeah, flow motion is there, but it's pretty toned down from what we've come to know it as. There are gummy ship sections. These return once again. You can't have a Kingdom Hearts numbered title without gummy ship sections. People really seem to hate the gummy ship sections, or they're not as popular as I thought they were. But honestly, besides Kingdom Hearts 2, which had the kind of like rail shooter shmup sections that were the gummy ship sections, I think Kingdom Hearts 3 does pretty good with its gummy ship sections. If Kingdom Hearts 2 is the original Star Fox on rails, then Kingdom Hearts 3 is Star Fox 64, where you kind of fly around to open zone, and worlds are located in the zone at the same time, and you have to kind of fly to them. There are treasure spheres and all kinds of things scattered about, asteroid fields. So it's not just like you're flying through empty space. There are things you can do. There are boss fights. There are like random encounters to clear. You destroy asteroids to get materials to bring your ship level up, which you also get from the random encounters, which is how you fight other ships in space here. I won't say too much about it because, again, it's ultimately just a tool to get from A to B, but there is a lot here in terms of freedom and size. There's an extensive mission list that you have to do to kind of unlock everything for the gummy ships. I believe it's tied to the Platinum Trophy. And there even is a secret boss when you complete everything. And it's the Schwartz guys from Einhander, which is a 2D scrolling shooter that was developed by Square. Very, very cool. And one of the more obscure kind of Easter eggs slash callouts in the Kingdom Hearts series out of everything that they included, out of all the Easter eggs they've included, from like the Final Fantasy characters and getting to fight Sephiroth and all this other stuff, the Schwartz guys from Einhander, I would never have guessed that in a million years. It's a super, super cool Easter egg, though. The last specific gameplay thing isn't a big deal, but I'm going to make a big deal about it because we complain about this so much, and this specific mechanic is in like every modern video game that has open world or RPG elements. And I'm talking, of course, about cooking. There's fucking cooking in my Kingdom Hearts game, as every game since 2015 that has come out must give you cooking as a way to boost your character's stats. But I will say, despite the fact that they shoehorn cooking into here, they tie it in a way that only Kingdom Hearts can. And of course, Remy from Ratatouille is the chef. That's right, the cooking rat that controls a human is the chef that makes you the stat boosting food. And cooking food is a mini game where he controls Sora, just like in the film where he controls Linguini. Cooking is a mini game, and you have to collect ingredients in the different worlds to cook different items on the menu that give different boosts. Better get used to cooking because I believe that cooking is also linked to the Platinum Trophy or the Completionist Achievement Run or whatever you're going to call it. So you better get good at it. For cooking, you get a Keyblade that kind of helps you out with some of the mini games, but some of the mini games are pretty challenging to get. You have to get like all 3-star ranks or whatever the star ranks are on all the menu items that you make. I would know much about the stat boosting capabilities of the food because I didn't really use them. They're there for you to use them if you want. But if you don't, you're not going to fail miserably at the game. Now, when you turn up the difficulty to like critical mode and do a hard as balls playthrough, the food might make more of a difference. And I might be more inclined to utilize the food mechanic in a harder playthrough. And maybe if I ever go back and do that, I will. But on just the standard default difficulty, I never felt like I had to turn to stat boosting food to help my chances in any kind of difficult fight. So it's there. It's a cool tie-in. Of course, they're going to tie it in, and it kind of ties into like Scrooge McDuck's whole background story as well for like the little bit that he shows up here. But cooking in my Kingdom Hearts game, absolutely insane. Cooking is now a de facto RPG mechanic, so you better get used to it. All right, we're going to dive into a little bit of the development history, and unfortunately my guidebook for this entire Guiding Keys series, of course being The Legend of Kingdom Hearts by the wonderful Georges J. Gruard, doesn't extend to Kingdom Hearts 3 quite yet. It ended around the time of the mobile game development, of Dream Drop Distance development, and when we were starting to get some of the information on Kingdom Hearts 3. So I had to fly solo for this one. Again, huge shout out to that book for filling in a lot of the blanks about the development history for Kingdom Hearts. Really insightful. There's so much information in there. More information. I just really just kind of strained out some of the important details and dates. Definitely go check out that book by, I believe it's called Third Edition Press. They make a bunch of books. They have a bunch of writers make a bunch of books about video games. There's a book on Metal Gear. There's a book on Halo, Final Fantasy VII. So a broad spectrum of books that go into some incredible depth and incredible detail. Highly recommend. So thank you so much again to Jay for an incredible resource for this pod. I can't recommend that book enough. And that's just volume 1. I can't wait till he puts out the other volumes and I can read them. So I had to stitch this together. I did a lot more research on this development history than probably any of the other ones, and really stitched together a bunch of stuff from interviews and things that were written about this game at the time to kind of form a cohesive story about the development of Kingdom Hearts 3. So, with that out of the way, let me read you the final development history for a numbered Kingdom Hearts title in Guiding Keys. It might come as a surprise to some, but concepts for Kingdom Hearts 3 had been in development as early as 2005, during the closing stretch of Kingdom Hearts 2's development. But despite plans stretching back nearly 15 years before its release, the long-awaited sequel wouldn't officially be announced until E3 2013 at a Sony press conference. It turns out, however, that Disney had requested a proper sequel to Kingdom Hearts 2 as early as 2006, while the team was busy finalizing the final mixed version of Kingdom Hearts 2. Nomura would respond by saying that they had many ideas for a true sequel, but were not at the point where they could elaborate or act on any of them. He and his team were just too busy at the time to begin the process of developing the next numbered Kingdom Hearts title. His team would start their pre-production work on Final Fantasy Versus 13 as much as they could while they waited for the completion of the Crystal Tools engine, and Nomura already had several projects on his schedule, including Crisis Core, the Blu-ray edition of Advent Children, and The World Ends With You, just to name a few. As noted in previous episodes of Guiding Keys, Square Enix was also going through some major corporate shifts as they transitioned to the next generation of consoles and leaned heavily on handheld titles to keep profits coming in. This would ultimately lead Nomura to develop his trilogy of Kingdom Hearts titles for handheld, further delaying progress on Kingdom Hearts 3. Nomura's work on Versus 13, as well as the handheld trilogy, played a significant part in Kingdom Hearts 3's prolonged absence. He also noted during interviews that the change from the Luminous engine that Square had been using after Crystal Tools' failure to the Unreal engine cost the team about a year in development time. Eventually, work would begin on Kingdom Hearts 3 with the usual Kingdom team, now known as Business Division 3, leading the charge. BD3 was a subdivision of Square Enix's Creative Business Unit 1, led by Yoshinori Kitase, who has been involved with many Kingdom Hearts projects. Co-director and longtime Nomura partner in crime Tai Yasue would serve as the guiding hand on the project, as Nomura was now a creative director on several other projects, including the long-awaited Final Fantasy VII Remake. Masaru Oko would return to write for the game alongside Nomura, and Ria Nishi would once again serve as producer. All these names should be familiar to you if you've listened to the series long enough, and the consistency of the Kingdom Hearts team is pretty remarkable in today's gaming landscape, where teams and developer studios are broken up at the whims of management. The first thing you'll notice about Kingdom Hearts 3 is that it would improve and expand upon the combat system and core mechanics from Kingdom Hearts 2, with Nomura stating the evolution would be similar to the step that was taken between the first two games. He would also include some of the ideas from the handheld titles that he felt were well received, stating that he used the handheld titles to test some ideas that he wanted to include in Kingdom Hearts 3, such as flow motion. One interesting thing of note is that the same team led by Tai Yasue working on Kingdom Hearts 3 was also working on the HD 2.5 collection at the same time. Yasue stated that this gave the team interesting insight for 3, as it allowed the team to learn all the best qualities of the series to use in the long-awaited sequel. We touched on gameplay a bit in the previous section, but one of the game's core mechanics, Keyblade transformations, was conceived as early as Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix. In fact, you might notice during the secret boss fight against the Lingering Will that it utilizes several different Keyblade transformations, such as a whip form and giant cannon form. Keyblade transformations were ultimately an amalgamation and combination of the form change mechanics from Birth by Sleep and the drive forms from Kingdom Hearts 2. Flow motion would also find its way into Kingdom Hearts 3 as well, although it would be significantly slowed down and nerfed. It was reworked into the game's new traversal system, which was known as Athletic Flow, and its reduced speed and power makes it a less ideal solution for combat. Heartless, Nobodies, and Unversed would all return with familiar enemy forms, as well as some new variants. By far the most controversial inclusion would be a system known as Attraction Flow, as was highlighted in the previous section. Tai Yasue would elaborate on the inclusion of this system in an interview with Gamatsu, stating that considering the game is a Disney crossover, they wanted to capture the thrill and excitement of riding the attractions at their theme parks, with the actual rides Mad Tea Party, Big Thunder Mountain, Buzz Lightyear Astro Blasters, and Grizzly River Run, providing inspiration alongside a generic merry-go-round and swinging pirate ship ride. Visuals of the attractions would be inspired by Disney's famous Main Street Electrical Parade. In terms of the worlds that were included in Kingdom Hearts 3, we learned several interesting details in interviews with Nomura. Tangled was one of the first worlds chosen to be included, with Nomura noting that Rapunzel's strong personality and long hair made for a compelling story and interesting gameplay possibilities. In terms of live-action Disney properties, Nomura once again settled on including Pirates of the Caribbean, deciding to base it off the concluding entry of the original trilogy at World's End, so that the story could wrap up naturally alongside Kingdom Hearts 3. When it came to Toy Story, it was a property that Nomura really wanted to utilize as far back as Kingdom Hearts 2. He felt that Sora's character and design would fit into the world of toys incredibly well, and he was so confident of this that he submitted ideas for the world to Disney Pixar shortly after the completion of Kingdom Hearts 2. Considering that Nomura and Disney opted to include more contemporary Disney works for Kingdom Hearts 3, he commented on the increased difficulty of including these worlds in the game. Considering that a lot of the worlds included were based on movies that were still in active development, the Kingdom team had to work closely with the creative teams at Disney to ensure character and world accuracy. The staff were incredibly specific about how certain aspects of the world were presented. All of the worlds were designed to match their Disney and Pixar counterparts as close as possible, with the Square Enix team working closely with Disney to capture the look and feel of each world as close to the original as possible. Disney even shared polygon data with the team so they could create the characters from scratch, and Pixar provided character models and met with the team weekly to ensure everything looked as true to the films as possible. Disney would go on to offer other critical feedback that the team said improved the overall level of animation, such as eye adjustments, framing, and line-of-sight adjustments. They even offered feedback in regards to having characters show less or more teeth. Speaking of Pixar, during the long planning and development phases of Kingdom Hearts 3, Disney acquired Marvel Entertainment and Lucasfilm as well as Pixar. So from the very beginning, there was rampant speculation about properties from the MCU and Star Wars universe being introduced into the Kingdom Hearts universe. While the team did say they looked at the possibilities of all Disney entries, neither Marvel or Star Wars were considered as serious concepts, or so they say. The only property that was associated with Marvel at all that was included was Big Hero 6. There's some speculation that neither Marvel nor Star Wars were included due to licensing deals that existed at the time with publishers like EA, who had an exclusive deal with Disney to produce Star Wars video games. When working on Sora's design for Kingdom Hearts 3, Nomura opted for an updated look, changing his costume from the popular look in Kingdom Hearts 2. Nomura even noted this, saying the fans really loved Sora's design from 2, but seeing as this was the first numbered title in a long time, he decided to give Sora a more sleek and sporty look to make him look more acrobatic. They also muted the volume of his signature spiky hair, so that it wasn't as wild. As for Sora's model, it was pretty much the same size from Kingdom Hearts 2, as not that much time had passed between the two games. Yoko Shimomura would return to compose and arrange for Kingdom Hearts 3, noting that she felt the pressure of it being the first numbered title in many years, but she wouldn't have to carry that burden alone, as Takeharu Ishimoto and Tsuyoshi Sekito would also contribute to the soundtrack, which would ultimately span 8 CDs. Hikaru Utada would also return to do a main theme song for the opening game and produce Don't Think Twice, that served as the end credits theme. An opening title theme called Face My Fears was created by Skrillex, Utada, and Pooh Bear, which ended up featuring in the opening cinematic. Skrillex, a longtime fan of the series, was originally going to remix Don't Think Twice per Utada's request, but pitched the idea of a second song to Utada, who agreed to collaborate with him and Pooh Bear to write the song. Kingdom Hearts 3 would come out January 25th, 2019 in Japan and January 29th, 2019 worldwide, debuting to mostly positive critical reception. The game would go on to sell over 5 million copies in its first month, and Square Enix revealed that the game had reached a total lifetime sales of 6.7 million units as of September 2021, surpassing the original Kingdom Hearts as the best-selling title to date. The Kingdom Hearts series as a whole would surpass 36 million copies sold as of March 2022. A DLC would be released a year later called Remind, ending the long-running tradition of final mix versions of Kingdom Hearts games. Definitely some interesting insight from our development history. Really cool to learn that they were actually planning Kingdom Hearts 3 as far back as Kingdom Hearts 2, which really kind of blows my theory out of the water that Nomura used Birth by Sleep to retroactively retcon a lot of the Kingdom Hearts titles that came earlier to kind of expand this crazy lore. He had a lot of this planned from the start. And really kind of interesting to see that some of my hunches about Disney's involvement were correct on how involved they were with the specific worlds because of all the data and how closely they collaborated with the Square Enix team. And I just feel like Disney kind of pulled some muscle to be able to get more stuff they wanted and take away from the main story. But that's fine. It's okay. We're not going to talk about that now because we have to talk about the story. And oh boy, we're going to talk about a lot here. I'm going to try and keep this as succinct as possible and just hit a lot of the most important parts, because a lot of the stuff that happens in the Disney movies is just kind of like retreads of the Disney movies with some Kingdom Hearts-y things sprinkled in. So, oh boy, this is gonna be quite an undertaking. Definitely the longest story so far of any Kingdom Hearts title, and this is gonna be multiple parts. So you better buckle up for this first part. Let's dive in to the story of Kingdom Hearts 3. The story picks up basically in the timeline right after Dream Drop Distance. But before we get back to any of that stuff that's happening, if you remember the end of Dream Drop Distance, after the opening movie, which is a banger with that Skrillex and Utada song, by the way, we start off with a scene that has us flying and careening through a city we've never seen before. There are what I can only describe as like these massive circular collections of buildings, almost like Minas Tirith, if you'd seen Lord of the Rings, the famous ring city of men from Lord of the Rings, that are dotted with windmills and cables connecting them, and they're all spread out in what seems to be an endless sea of water that is shining as bright as a mirror, and it's a beautiful day with a blue sky and clouds in the air. And in a flash of white, in a transition, we're in a very ornately decorated room, and the camera pans down to two boys sitting on a bench before an open window, and they're engaged in a lively game taking place on what looks like a chessboard. Isn't a chessboard. It has random surfaces elevated here and there. One boy wears a black sleeveless hooded shirt and sports stark white hair, while the other boasts dark hair and a white flowing robe. The white-haired boy then begins talking about the ancient Keyblade War and the Lost Masters as they play. And I'll insert their conversation here for you to listen to because it's interesting.
Have you heard of the ancient Keyblade War?
Huh? Of course I have.
Long ago, Keyblade wielders waged a war over the ownership of light.
Yeah, the Master's favorite story.
I wonder what they planned on doing with Kingdom Hearts after making it appear.
Who knows? I don't get why anyone would initiate a war.
So, you know the Lost Masters?
Who?
They're the ones who started the Keyblade War.
Never heard of them. Where'd you hear about that?
Or they're the ones for whom the war started.
I'm not following you.
You can drop the facade.
Facade?
On that land shall darkness prevail and light expire. A prospective Keyblade master should know this.
If you say so.
The gazing eye sees the fate of the world. The future. It's already been written.
Really? I'm not so sure about that. Besides, who's to say I can't change it? And maybe light will prevail.
Pretty confident. But things aren't in your favor.
Perhaps, but unlike darkness, there's more to light than meets the eye. You might be surprised.
Oh, I hope so.
I'll tell you straight up, right up front, I won't hold this reveal at all. This is a young Xehanort and a young Ericus, and the game they are playing is similar to some of the iconography we saw in the intro movie of the game, with pieces being moved around on a board by Xehanort. One important thing we also see in this shot is on the wall, the camera pans to a very old-looking Keyblade hung on the wall that we recognize as the no-name Keyblade. It is the Master of Masters Keyblade that he imparted to Lushu that contained the Master's gazing eye that sees the future. And that's the Keyblade that would one day be carried by Master Xehanort. So already in the opening scene of Kingdom Hearts 3, we have a connection to the story threads of the next arc of Kingdom Hearts. What happened to Lushu? How did the Keyblade come to be in this city? How did Master Xehanort come to wield the Master of Masters Keyblade? The scene is really, really symbolic. It's an obvious metaphor. The board game that Xehanort and Ericus are playing is obviously a metaphor for the coming clash between Xehanort's organization and the Guardians of Light. Not sure how long ago it was that Xehanort was planning all of this, but it seems that he's kind of a sinister kid here, although we do know that Ericus and Xehanort from our Birth by Sleep episode have had some history with each other, and they've been friends for a very, very, very long time. And we get a much younger Xehanort referencing the Lost Masters here. So again, if you remember from the Union Cross episode, we just talked about that, and we're already seeing the seeds for Kingdom Hearts 4 and for the next story arc. But enough about that. We're transitioning to a current time, our present time, and we're back in a scene in the Mysterious Tower as Sora, Donald, and Goofy stand at attention before Yen Sid, who basically gives us some exposition on what we're doing here and what we need to do in order to defeat Xehanort. And again, I'll put that audio in here so you can hear him explain it.
In order to defeat Xehanort, there are allies we must gather, acting now to rouse them from their slumber. We have discussed this before, Sora. Your Mark of Mastery exam was conducted in the hopes you would acquire the power to wake them. However, the darkness nearly took control of you, and your grasp of your new abilities leaves much to be desired. Furthermore, Xehanort nearly made you his vessel, and in the process stripped you of most of the power you had gained by then. I suspect you have already noticed this, correct? But first, you must regain all the strength you have lost. Perhaps it is foolish to expect a complete recovery, but it is absolutely vital you perfect one power, the power of waking, which you failed to master during your exam. There's someone who lost his strength and found it again, a true hero to whom you ought to pay a visit. Perhaps he can point you in the right direction.
Got it.
You can count on us to take care of Sora.
I would have it no other way. I put Sora in your hands.
And don't forget, we'll keep an eye on you.
Oh, this is gonna be lots of fun. It's not a vacation. Let's go. Count on us.
But basically, they need to wake the other individuals, such as the Wayfinder trio of Aqua, Terra, and Ven, and Roxas as well. But the main issue is that Sora failed his Mark of Mastery exam, which, again, I argue is an injustice to Sora because he was tricked by Xehanort and the organization. They targeted him specifically, and Yensid didn't figure that out until it was too late. Not only is Sora significantly weakened after Xehanort tried to take over his body, but he failed to gain the power of waking, which he needs to wake up or reconnect all these hearts of all these people who have been hurt by Xehanort. Yensid that it says it's critical to the coming fight that he masters this power and instructs him to find a true hero who once lost his strength but found it again. And with this, Sora, Donald, and Goofy are basically kicked out the door and set off on another adventure. And the next scene we transition to here is the three heroes sitting on the gummy ship, which is kind of cool. We get scenes on a gummy ship, which I actually thought we hadn't done before, but we got a couple scenes on the gummy ship in Kingdom Hearts 2. But it seems like they have a destination in mind, or Sora has a destination in mind, but they have no way of getting there since all the old highways, all the old pathways from Kingdom Hearts 2 are closed. Remember, the worlds are still sealed off from one another, and it's not easy to reach them. Goofy then gives Sora a quote that he's always heard Yensid say, and something you've heard me say at the end of every single episode: "May your heart be your guiding key," which, again, continues Goofy's streak of really incredible wisdom in these games. For like as dumb as he pretends to be or sounds sometimes, Goofy is full of wisdom. So this saying sparks an idea in Sora's mind. He rushes to the front of the ship, holds his Keyblade out, and in a flash of light, a portal appears, a gateway to their way forward. Sora exclaims that it's off to Olympus Coliseum, and the gummy ship blasts off as the screen cuts to black, and we get a title shot. And you might think, oh, it's the title shot. It's the title shot of Kingdom Hearts 3. And no, it's not. The title shot that we get reads Kingdom Hearts 2.9, which is just a hysterical Easter egg / gag by Nomura and the team, because everybody made that joke when they had like Kingdom Hearts 2.8 collection that came out and Kingdom Hearts 0.2 final chapter prologue. Everyone was like, oh, now we're going to get Kingdom Hearts 2.9 and 2.95 and we'll never get 3. So the fact that they like took that shot at the community making fun of them is just such a good-natured joke, and it's absolutely hysterical. I absolutely love it. We arrive in our first world, Olympus, which was formerly known as the Olympus Coliseum, the world of Hercules. We get a brief exposition recapping a bit of our experiences in these worlds before, as well as Hades' previously failed attempts to defeat Sora and Hercules using Cloud, using Auron, and all this other exposition. But this exposition basically deals with the full plot of Hercules, with Hades already having released the Titans and attacked Olympus. Sora, Donald, and Goofy arrive in a mountain range and proceed to wander lost for a while, yelling Hercules' name until it attracts the attention of Hades, who proceeds to summon the Titans and basically blow them off the mountain. Before we leave Hades, though, two more familiar faces enter the scene via a dark portal, as he's just gotten rid of Sora, Donald, and Goofy, and from the swirling depths of this portal emerge Pete and Maleficent, and we know that they've been operating because we saw them again in Recoded. At the end of Kingdom Hearts 2, we weren't super clear on what happened to them because they held off the Heartless while Sora and his friends went and finished off Xemnas and the organization. We saw them again at the end of Recoded, and they were looking for a book of prophecies. So Hades is not very happy about this. He's in no mood to deal with them today, but Hades basically tells them that he doesn't need their help. They can keep the Heartless. He's going back to his original plan. Maleficent does not care. She has her own agenda, and she asks Hades if he knows of the existence of a distinctive black box. And the only time we've heard of a black box being mentioned before is when the Master of Masters gave Lushu his role in Union Cross, or back cover, if you watch the movie. and Lushu was supposed to keep a black box safe along with taking the Master's Keyblade. That was his role, was to observe the events that were going to unfold in the future and guard the black box. Hades thinks for a moment, and he asks if it's the same as the one Zeus hid on Earth, and Maleficent seems interested before we transition away from the scene. So Maleficent seems to have knowledge of not only the Book of Prophecies, which we learned and recoded, but of whatever is in this black box that the Master told Lushu to guard or to hide or make sure no one found it. We return to our three heroes plummeting through the air, who happen to catch the attention of Hercules in the city below, who leaps up to save them. And during their reunion, Hercules explains the city's destruction is Hades' doing, and then Sora has a chance to ask him his question. And Sora wants to know how Hercules got his strength back during their last time together, because Sora has lost all of his power. Hercules says he's not exactly sure how he did it, but all he knows is that in the moment, he wanted to save Meg with all his heart, and that he had the strength to do so. But before they can discuss this any further, a bunch of on-fire Heartless come streaking through the air, knocking down a statue of Hercules, and they table the discussion until later. The four heroes jump into action, and Sora agrees to help Hercules save the city. After that battle, Sora, Donald, and Goofy get onto the fallen statue of Hercules, where he just basically proceeds to yeet them further into the city, which questionable decision, because like, what if that statue lands on somebody? Like, great move, Hercules. Like, what are you doing? And they land, they're fine, because it's, it'd be a shame if Sora died before the game even got going. After saving a little girl from a combination of fire and Heartless, Pete and Maleficent once again appear out of a portal during their search. Pete accidentally spills the beans about their search for the black box, and Maleficent is just super annoyed by him, but Pete also makes the astute observation that Sora definitely looks weaker than the last time they saw him before leaving, and they decide not to engage. They are obviously on their own timetable. They just leave the heroes alone. And after this, Sora is definitely clearly downtrodden. He's really upset. This really gets to him, which is not something we usually see happen to Sora. He's usually not negatively affected by things. He's usually very positive, or when it comes to dealing with enemies and dealing with adversaries, he's very kind of rowdy and very kind of rebellious against adversaries and people. Donald and Goofy are just checking on him. He says he's okay. He says that he can take it. They proceed into the city to save others. And this is really where the expansive level design is shown in Kingdom Hearts 3. The city is a sprawling level that takes advantage of Sora's new movement and the game's new mechanics. Sora and friends run on walls. They use Goofy's shield to traverse paths riddled with fire. All the while, they're saving citizens in harm's way. And we also get to see some cutscene interactions with Sora and just the generic townsfolk NPCs, which makes the world feel a little more alive. Usually in these Kingdom Hearts worlds, they're kind of barren and sparse when it comes to the actual people you get to interact with. So just including some citizens and some NPCs that Sora can talk to does a lot for the expansive world building. After saving a group of people from a collapsing temple, during a brief respite from the action, we finally get our first encounter with one of the members of the new organization, as none other than Xigbar appears from a portal to taunt Sora and Hercules before leaving just as fast as he appeared.
Huh?
Oh wow, very nice. Full marks.
Go away!
No organization!
You're Xigbar!
All this altruism is giving me the warm and fuzzies. So then, does having a heart of light come with an extremely good insurance policy?
Just say what you mean.
Oh, but I did though. No good will ever come from putting other people first.
I was able to save Meg's life because I was ready to risk my own.
Because you've got friends in high places, you mean? Tricks like that don't fly for your average Joe.
What do you know? You weren't even there. If you were, you'd admire Herc's courage.
I don't admire one guy leaping into danger if it means someone else might have to jump in to save him. You're all just lining up to lose out. Dooming others to take the fall with you. Oh, and you can spare me the usual party line. Yes, hearts are powerful when they're connected. But if you put too much of that power in one place, some of those hearts might end up breaking. Still, Sora, that doesn't mean you should change. Accept the power you're given. Find the hearts joined to yours.
Why would I ever take advice from you?
As if. You don't have any choice but to follow this sweet little trail of breadcrumbs. And at the end, you'll finally realize what destiny has in store for you. In fact, your reward might be right around the corner. You're so close!
He urges Sora to find the hearts connected to his, and when Sora refuses, Xigbar basically tells him he has no choice but to follow the clues and hints that they drop along the way. Obviously, this means that they obviously have another trap set for him, but like, what choice does he have? Sora's friends encourage him not to listen to Xigbar, and they push onward. After dealing with all the Heartless and saving everybody in the city, Sora and company push on towards Olympus to deal with Hades and the Titans. Hercules and Pegasus fly on ahead as Sora remembers what Herc said about fighting with all his heart, and he takes note of this as kind of the thing to grasp onto, the lesson from this world. After scaling the mountain, which again is another expansive portion of the Olympus level as a whole, we have a pretty expansive city section and then a pretty expansive mountain zone. We come face to face with the Rock Titan blocking the way to Olympus, and even though we've defeated the Rock Titan before, that's neither here nor there. And after a section that showcases the vertical wall scaling and running as well as the new particle effects from Unreal Engine 4, we utilize the attraction flow system, and this is our introduction to it, which is the big mountain coaster, to defeat the Rock Titan for good and secure the route to Olympus. And the big mountain coaster shoots explosives from its little train chimney stack as you just ride around the mountain with the Rock Titan throwing rocks at you. Pretty cool. Really just kind of serves as a big finale to like the first big boss fight in the game. Upon entering Olympus, which is the realm of the gods, obviously, we hear the familiar Olympus Coliseum fanfare, which feels so good and so nostalgic. Sora, Donald, and Goofy fight through the Heartless infesting the space as they make their way to the peak, only to find Zeus imprisoned by Hades and the Titans. After Hercules springs into action to save his father, this is where we get our first major boss fight against the remaining Titans, and this is another fantastic boss fight that showcases the scale of some of these fights, because you first face off against the enormous lava and ice Titans, and upon defeating them, you face the wind tornado Titan as he ravages the countryside, throwing buildings and stone pillars at you, and you're basically flying around in that space as the buildings come whirling at you, and that's the end of that boss fight. Hercules uses the Tornado Titan to suck up the others and hurl them into outer space where they basically explode, and Hades gets sent back to the underworld with his tail between his legs after a little physical tough love from Hercules in the form of a punch to the jaw and a lightning bolt from Zeus. Hercules and Meg reunite, mirroring the ending of the movie as he expresses to Sora that if he lived with his family on Olympus, he would have to be apart from the person he loves most as he embraces Meg. He then asks Sora if he can help at all with his quest, his question, how to find his lost strength, and Sora shakes his head, noting that he thinks it's something he'll have to figure out on his own, and that in a way Herc already gave him some great advice when he talked about something to fight for with all his heart. And with that, our final adventure in the world of Hercules wraps up as we get one last title shot of Olympus. But one last thing in this world specifically, we return one last time to Maleficent and Pete is digging in the ground for a black box. Pete does come across a box in his digging, but it's Pandora's box, the old Greek myth, and not the box Maleficent is looking for, but she does drop a hint saying the box contains a copy of the Book of Prophecies and that she wants to find it for herself. So obviously she learned about this information about the Master of Masters, about the Book of Prophecies from someone, and now she's looking for it because she believes it'll give her a leg up if she knows what's going to happen in the future. Before we head off to our next Disney World, we transition to a new scene where we get a title shot that reads Dark World, as we see the familiar and dimly lit craggy landscape of the Realm of Darkness. The camera pans to Riku and Mickey, who are dressed in new outfits, and in some of their expositous conversation, we learn that they're here on the trail of Aqua, who was last seen in the Dark Realm. Mickey was literally with her 10 years ago. Riku has mixed emotions on being back in the Dark Realm and takes some time to reflect on his growth. He mentions how it seems like a lifetime ago and that he feels somewhat exhilarated to be back at the location of his greatest failure as a different person. Mickey says he understands, and he comments on how far Riku has come in such a short time, from falling to darkness to Keyblade Master over the course of all these games that we've played. And really, this kind of just gives the player time to reflect on Riku's journey across the entire Kingdom Hearts series, and he has every right to have mixed emotions being back in the Dark Realm, except this time for a positive reason rather than a negative one. And again, out of all of the characters, Riku probably has the strongest character arc that really kind of concludes in Dream Drop Distance, because I would say, here Riku has more time to reflect on his growth as opposed to like growth actually happening to him. And it's cool that he gets the time to kind of reflect on that. Riku then asks Mickey if he knows the way, with Mickey shaking his head. Mickey comments on how last time he relied on his heart to take him to Aqua, but now that his connection to her feels hazy and distant, and the two friends carry on in the hopes that they will find Aqua and rescue her, which the comments about Mickey and his heart and his connection to her are interesting, because that is very much a concept of the power of waking and being able to utilize the connection between hearts. After carrying on for a short amount of time, Riku and Mickey come to the Dark Margin, which is the famous beach in the Dark Realm we've seen multiple times in the series now. As they reach the shore, Mickey says his connection to Aqua is completely gone. And Riku notes how the last time he was there, he and Sora were able to find their way back to the Realm of Light. But Mickey, seeing Riku's train of thought, says Aqua has fallen into an even deeper, into a darker abyss, saying that they aren't equipped to dive any deeper than they already are. They cannot go after her without significant risk to themselves, risking their own safety and then having to rescue more people out of the Realm of Darkness. Suddenly, Shadow Heartless emerge all around them and coalesce into a swirling mass that we've come to know as the Demon Tower, which we've seen in Kingdom Hearts 0.2. Super cool, because we get a boss fight here, and here you get to play as Riku, and this part is super, super cool. Super sweet. Compared to Sora, he has a relatively limited moveset, but he feels way more powerful, as he should, considering his status as a Keyblade Master. He has way more powerful magic. His attacks just feel more powerful. He feels faster. He has a wider variety of movement abilities. And after a brief battle controlling Riku, the Demon Tower gains the upper hand and consumes Riku, crashing down on him and enveloping him in darkness. As we see Riku floating in darkness, appearing to drown, that's what throughout the entire series, like the going under the water and drowning has been associated with falling into darkness, right? As we see him drowning, a muffled voice then speaks to him, saying that it didn't expect to see him again, and asking him if he wanted help. Riku appears to pass out / faint in this drowning scenario, and when he comes to, he's lying on the shore of the beach with Mickey standing over him. Mickey says he got at least half of the Heartless, and they spit Riku out before leaving. And we see a shocking sight then. Riku's way to the Dawn Keyblade has been snapped clean in two, right in half, about halfway up the blade, which is insane. It's absolutely insane. The only other time we've seen like broken or damaged Keyblades is in the Keyblade Graveyard, and then Mickey makes an offhanded comment about how they should have powered up their Keyblades before going down there. Like, that's just a thing you can do, apparently. Super interesting Keyblade lore here, just casually dropped in the middle of this conversation. Like, oh, your Keyblade can break. I guess we should have gotten like more powerful ones before we came down here. Mickey just casually dropping that Keyblade lore and not elaborating on it any further. So Riku and Mickey decide to cut their losses and regroup at Yensid's tower. Riku is hesitant to leave. He feels awful about having to leave Aqua there even longer. But before they do leave, Riku sticks his broken Keyblade in the sand, saying he's leaving it there for the other him. Doesn't elaborate on that anymore and just walks away. So we'll have to see what the hell Riku means by that. So after our brief detour in the Realm of Darkness, we're back in Yensid's tower with Sora, Donald, and Goofy, reporting on Sora's inability to regain his strength after visiting Olympus, and shortly after this meeting, Riku and Mickey return as well. They report on their failure to find Aqua, and with some exposition, we catch up with everybody here.
We know Master Aqua made it as far as the beach that Sora and I once visited, but that's where her trail ends.
Meaning?
All traces of her vanish into the great abyss, beneath the realm of darkness.
She's gone?
No. Sora was dragged into the abyss during his exam, and I went in after him. So I think if we find someone who is really close to Aqua, and they make the dive, they could reach her down there.
I'm not sure who's even left to ask. Ventus is hidden, and Aqua's the only one who knows where. Plus, nobody's seen Terra in ages. Aqua was the last.
So Aqua, she's gonna be the key to finding all three.
Yes, their teacher, Master Ericus, would have been another possibility. Had Xehanort not mercilessly struck him down.
A solemn silence falls over the group, and Sora, perhaps feeling the influence of Ven in his heart, clutches his fist to his heart and defiantly proclaims that he will save her. Goofy asks how he would do that without the power of waking, and Sora apologizes, saying he's not sure where his confident outburst came from all of a sudden. It was Ven inside of him, obviously. Yensid decides that the best course of action is for Sora to stay the course and focus on the power of waking. He advises Riku and Mickey to retrace the steps of Aqua's own journey in Birth by Sleep to see if there's a solution in her story to their predicament anywhere, and maybe the location, clues to the location of Ven or Terra. He also advises them to visit Kairi and Lee, who were training with the wizard Merlin, and this would help them upgrade their Keyblades somehow. He also gives them suitcases with new clothes similar to the new outfits Riku and Mickey were sporting. After a protest from Sora, Yensid obviously gives him new clothes too, so he'll finally have his Kingdom Hearts 3 outfit rather than his Kingdom Hearts 2 outfit, which he's had up until this point. Jiminy also jumps up onto the desk to join them. The whole gang seems ready to set off on this new adventure, but before they do, Sora, Donald, and Goofy listen intently to Yensid, who has closed his eyes and bowed his head and softly whispers under his breath, "May your hearts be your guiding key." After this, we transition to our three heroes back in the gummy ship, trying to figure out where to go when they hear a sound coming from Sora's pants of his new outfit. It's a ringtone version of Sora's theme, which is pretty good, like an 8-bit version, super cool. And out from one of his pockets, he pulls a new addition to Kingdom Hearts 3, the gummy phone. That's right, because why would a cell phone in Kingdom Hearts universe be made of anything other than gummy? Although if you think about it, it makes sense, because if you need to be able to communicate with somebody across worlds, if you make the gummy phone out of the material, remember, gummy blocks are the material of the barriers of the world when they were shattered by the darkness. That is what allows them to travel from world to world. So, of course, if you make the gummy phone and you make it out of the material that is the barriers of the world and you can communicate across worlds, it makes perfect sense. So it's ringing, Sora answers it, and he sees Chip and Dale on the screen. And with the gummy phone, they'll be able to talk to each other and stay in touch even across worlds, which is kind of a cool little tidbit aspect about the lore of the gummy, I guess, is pretty cool. Chip and Dale report to Sora about one of the plot points of Dream Drop Distance, about how they had recovered the research data Ansem had hidden inside of him, and were working hard to crack it open. When the screen flashes and a new individual comes on the screen and begins to talk, he sports a white lab coat, long sweeping hair that covers one eye. This is the former ex-organization member Xehanort, who is now Ienzo since he had been recompleted after his defeat.
Oh, I guess we haven't spoken since the castle. I'm Ienzo. Alias is here too. Alias, whatever's between you and Roxas, it's in the past. Sora, the reason we're here is because you and your friends defeated our nobodies, thereby recompleting us. We cast off our hearts by choice, make no mistake, but we didn't know that Xemnas, or rather, Xehanort, was deceiving us.
Huh? Xemnas? Oh, he's with them.
Not anymore. Xemnas and Xehanort have no hold over us now. We're just students of the heart. Exactly the same as we were before all of this began.
Yeah, right.
But you know, now that I think about it, Axel's on our side now.
We have friends we want to bring back to this world just the same as you. To do that, we have to work together. In that spirit, Sora, we found some intriguing data in the bit of code we deciphered. Is it about me? Yes. In order to piece your memories back together, our teacher Ansem the Wise took a close look at your heart. And what he found is that your heart doesn't belong just to you.
It doesn't? Gorge, you don't seem surprised.
Yeah. Honestly, I suspected as much. There's another heart inside mine. I think it's Roxas's. Just like Naminé is still inside Kairi's.
Interesting. Well, no one knows your heart better than you. To be honest, we still have a plethora of questions on our side. But the idea has merit. It's incredible enough that you and your nobody are able to coexist. If you share a heart, no wonder someone as remarkable as you caught Ansem the Wise's eye. We'll keep investigating based on your hypothesis. I'll be in touch.
After hanging up the call, Sora decides on their next course of action. Since Riku and Mickey were following Aqua's heart, he would follow Roxas's heart while trying to regain the power of waking, determined to help his nobody reclaim his personhood. Following his heart, Sora summons his Keyblade and gets ready to set out towards Twilight Town. And with a flash from the Keyblade, we finally get the Kingdom Hearts 3 title shot, and our adventure truly begins in earnest. Guys, I gotta be honest, I wanted to get a lot further in this episode. I had like 3 or 4 more worlds I wanted to cover, but we're already pushing 2 hours, and we'll probably be well over 2 hours after I include all the cutscenes and the music and chop it all up the way I want to. We'll probably be pretty close to 2 hours. So I think I'll end it there. I think the Kingdom Hearts 3 title shot is a great spot to kind of leave it, and I'll have to reshuffle my episodes and figure out if this is going to be 3 or 4 parts. I originally wanted it to be 3 parts. I wanted the Remind DLC to be a 4th episode and have its own episode dedicated to it so we could break it down properly. But we'll have to see. Maybe this will turn into 4 or 5 episodes for the total thing now. I don't know. But I feel like this is a good spot to stop it just because I don't want to overwhelm everybody. Once we start getting into the Disney worlds and going through, it's basically probably the middle. Part 2 will be covering all the story of all the Disney worlds. And then part 3 will be tying up the end of the game and talking about some of that stuff. So we finally made it. We finally started talking about Kingdom Hearts 3, and it feels pretty surreal. It feels pretty crazy. I I cannot believe it that we're already here and we're close to the end of our Guiding Keys journey, and we'll probably be wrapping it up this fall, this winter. It's really unbelievable. Again, thank you guys so much as always for being the force behind these episodes. This series is by far the most popular thing I've ever done. It accounts for such a large percentage of my overall listens that it's actually pretty insane. So the support that you guys have given it has given me the motivation to keep going as in depth with it as I've wanted to, even though sometimes it's been hard when I write down all of the different story beats and story aspects and stuff. It gets a little bit tedious, but I really, really do appreciate it. But we're going to end the episode here for today. If you want to get in touch with me, you can go to linktr.ee/Unlockables podcast for all the links to all the social media, the Discord, Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff, and talk to me about Kingdom Hearts. Talk to me about video games. There's a lot of great stuff going on. By the time this episode comes out, King of Games 1996 will probably have wrapped up. Go check out King of Games 1996 on the Retro Hangover podcast feed. It's a really, really awesome cross-show collaborative effort where myself and a bunch of other people came together to determine what was the best game from the year 1996, and we pit a bunch of games against each other in a March Madness-style tournament and had a blast doing it. So go and check out King of Games 1996. You won't regret listening to that, I promise. With that being said, I'm going to end the episode here. It's not just the story of video games, it's the story of you. And as always, remember Yen Sid's famous words, may your heart be your guiding key.